Making headlines this hour, President Dr. Mohamed Muiz decides that the Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency will operate under an independent board. Elections Commission of Maldives, ECM, opens the opportunity to submit nominations for the upcoming Local Council and Women's Development Committee elections. The Maldives Industrial Fisheries Company announces the disbursement of $894,942 to fishermen as of 12 January.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz decides that the Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency will operate under an independent board.
The President made the appointment of the agency, referred to in Article 38A of Act No. 30, 2015, Sports Act, under the authority of Article 116A of the Constitution of the Republic of Maldives. The decision was formally communicated today through a presidential directive. The First Amendment to the Sports Act, passed by the President on the 19th of May last year, aims to ensure equality for all in the field of sports. Under the amendment, the Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency will operate under an independent board appointed to implement policies to control the use of prohibited substances in sports, as stipulated in Article 38A of the Sports Act. The Maldives National Anti-Doping Agency, which was previously administered by the Ministry of Sports, Fitness and Recreation, will now be placed under an independent board. The government and any other agency will not have the authority to influence the agency's operations. Speaking to PSM News, Minister of Sports, Fitness and Recreation Abdullah Rafiu said the move will ensure fair and equal opportunities for athletes and bring the Maldives in line with the UNESCO Convention and the World Anti-Doping Agency or WADA Anti-Doping Code. He added that the decision will play an important role in shaping the country's sports sector in accordance with international best practices. He further said the reform will align national sports activities with globally accepted standards. A bill to comply with the UNESCO Convention and the WADA Anti-Doping Code was adopted at the Second World Conference on Doping held in Copenhagen on the 3rd of March 2003. The bill has since been signed by 191 countries, with the Maldives signing the agreement on the 14th of October. Under the agreement, countries are required to comply with the UNESCO Convention and share all relevant information with WADA, including details on anti-doping practices, policies, and regulations.
The non-resident ambassador of the Maldives to Russia, Abdurrahim Abdullatif, presents his credentials to President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, at an official ceremony held at the Grand Kremlin Palace in Moscow. The credentials were presented during an official ceremony attended by Ambassador Abdurrahim Abdullatif, who conveyed congratulations and best wishes from President Dr. Mohamed Muiz to the Russian President. Abdurrahim Abdullatif was appointed as the non-resident ambassador of the Maldives to Russia on 11th March. He currently also serves as the ambassador of the Maldives to Turkey. Elections Commission of Maldives ECM opens the opportunity to submit nominations for the upcoming Local Council and Women's Development Committee elections.
The Elections Commission said the Local Council and Women's Development Committee elections will be held on Saturday, 4th April from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Nominations for both elections open today and will close on 1st February at 3:30 p.m. The Commission said nomination forms may be submitted only during official hours. Applications will be accepted from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on all days except Sundays. On Sundays, applications will be accepted from 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Unlike previous elections, all nomination forms must be submitted online. Candidates contesting the local council and Women's Development Committee elections are required to upload all necessary documents and pay administrative fees through the Commission's main portal, my.elections.gov.mv. The Elections Commission will also issue decisions on applications and related notices through the same portal. The Elections Commission said elections will be held in 225 council constituencies. A total of 678 members will be elected to local councils and 678 members to women's development committees, bringing the total number of elected members to 1,356. According to the voters list released by the Commission, 294,937 voters are eligible to vote in the council elections. This includes 144,527 women and 150,410 men. The Commission said 321 polling stations will be established across the atolls. A further 240 polling stations will be set up in Male, Hurumale, and Vilingili for voters from Kuludufushi, Fomalak City, Tinadu City, and Addu City. In addition, 3 polling stations will be established in industrial islands, 5 polling stations in prisons, and 50 polling stations in resorts. 2 overseas ballot boxes will also be placed for the council elections, one in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and another one in Colombo, Sri Lanka. The Elections Commission said the April 4 elections will be conducted in a highly digitized manner, particularly in administrative processes, with arrangements made for candidates to submit nomination forms electronically. According to the Commission's Permanent Constituency Determination Report, 626 councillors will be elected to island councils and 52 councillors to city councils. Of the 133 island councils, some will elect 3 councillors, including a council president and 1 female member, while 46 island councils will elect 5 councillors, including a council president and 2 female councillors. The number of members elected to women's development committees will match the number elected to island and city councils.
The Maldives Industrial Fisheries Company, MIFCO, announces the disbursement of $894,942 to fishermen as of 12th January, marking a significant step in the government's renewed commitment to the vital sector.
This swift payment, delivered within a 48-hour window, as pledged by President Dr. Mohamed Muiz, is already yielding positive results. According to MIFCO, the prompt settlement of dues has directly led to an increased number of fishing vessels going out to sea, ensuring a more consistent supply. This financial injection is a key component of a broader strategy to revitalize the fisheries industry, a cornerstone of the administration's economic vision. Central to this effort are decisive measures including a price increase for fish, now bought from fishermen at $1.04 per kilogram, coupled with a substantial reduction in fuel costs for vessels, now sold at $0.84. Beyond immediate financial incentives, the government is implementing a multifaceted approach for long-term development. The Ministry of Fisheries and Ocean Resources has launched specialized training programs aimed at fostering interest in fishing among the youth. Concurrently, plans are underway to double the nation's fish storage capacity, develop modern processing facilities, and expand the industry's overall footprint. The overarching goal is to transform fisheries into the largest income-generating sector in the Maldives, capitalizing on its current position as the nation's primary export and increasing its contribution to the national economy.
The Housing Development Corporation HDC orders the immediate suspension of all fiber-related activities at Hurumale Harbour, setting a deadline of 1200 hours on 18th January for work to cease or to be relocated to designated areas.
The directive follows observations of fiber work being carried out on marine vessels berthed at the harbour, raising concerns over environmental protection and public safety. HDC said such activities pose risks to the marine environment and disrupt other harbour users. The corporation warned that failure to comply with the directive by the stipulated deadline will result in joint enforcement action with the Marine Police and other relevant authorities. The move is in line with the Regulation on Health and Safety Standards in Fiber Workplaces, which came into effect in February 2025. The regulation prohibits activities such as smoking, eating, and drinking within fiber workspaces in order to minimize occupational and environmental hazards. HDC has urged all parties involved to strictly adhere to the regulations, stressing the importance of safeguarding public safety and protecting the marine environment.
A national policy on agroforestry is formulated and officially handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Welfare.
The National Policy on Agroforestry and Trees Outside Forests 2026 was developed by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock in collaboration with World Agroforestry, ICRAF, and the Center for International Forestry Research, or C4-ICRAF. The policy was formally handed over to Dr. Ilian Ubalijuro, Director General of World Agroforestry, to Maria Maria, Minister of Agriculture and Animal Welfare. The ministry said the primary objective of the policy is to establish an economically and environmentally beneficial system by reviving trees in farmland and residential areas across the Maldives. The policy outlines the importance of agricultural development and vegetation regeneration, taking into account the unique environmental conditions and soil-related challenges of the islands. Particular emphasis has been placed on the protection of reeds and coastal vegetation. The policy also highlights the role of agroforestry in mitigating climate change impacts and strengthening food security. The vision of the policy is to transform agriculture into a climate-adapted and sustainable livelihood. Under the policy, incentives will be introduced to empower agriculture-related associations and encourage tree planting. Scientific research will also be utilized to revive and sustainably benefit from indigenous plant species in the Maldives. The ministry said the policy will contribute to environmental protection while increasing agricultural productivity. As a result, it is expected to bring significant economic benefits to the country. Agroforestry refers to agricultural practices that integrate crops with standing trees without clearing tall vegetation. The approach is considered a new agricultural system to be revived in the Maldives. Currently, the most common agricultural practice in the Maldives involves clearing land by cutting down trees. Agroforestry, also referred to as the cultivation of stream-side trees, is recognized as a method that supports environmental protection and long-term sustainability.
The first Zakat Act comes into force with the beginning of the new year, following its approval by the President on 6th December.
The Act establishes a legal framework for zakat matters in accordance with Islamic principles, with the aim of fulfilling the objectives for which zakat is legitimized in Islam. It defines the types of zakat payable under the law, the individuals obligated to pay it, and the categories of property subject to zakat. Several key initiatives have been introduced under the Zakat Act. Among them is the establishment of the Maldives Zakat House, which has been set up as an agency under the Ministry of Islamic Affairs. Another major body formed under the Act is the Zakat Council. The Zakat Council comprises 9 members, including representatives from key religious and financial institutions. Members include representatives from the Ministry of Islamic Affairs, the Supreme Council of Islamic Fatwa, the Ministry of Finance and Planning, the Maldives Monetary Authority, and the Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, along with zakat experts appointed by the President. The primary responsibility of the Zakat Council is to provide strategic advice and guidance to the Maldives Zakat House. The Council is also tasked with administrative management, policy formulation, and supervision of the national zakat system. Its first meeting focused on discussions regarding the strengthening of the operational framework of the Maldives Zakat House. The government said the Council will support efforts to strengthen the zakat system by bringing together expertise from various zakat-related fields. Through the exchange of technical knowledge, the Council is expected to enhance the administrative and operational capacity of the Maldives Zakat House, ensuring transparent, systematic, and effective management. The establishment of the Zakat Council and the commencement of discussions on the operation of the Maldives Zakat House marks a significant step towards strengthening the national zakat system and ensuring the effective implementation of the Zakat Act. The Council is expected to provide accurate guidance on zakat matters, address existing challenges, and make zakat-related services more accessible to the public.
Indian and Sri Lankan Coast Guard ships arrive in the Maldives to participate in exercise Dosti.
Exercise Dosti is a biennial exercise conducted by the Coast Guards of India, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives. The exercise began 35 years ago between the Indian and Maldivian Coast Guards, with Sri Lanka participating since 2012. This year's exercise will be held from the 17th to the 19th of this month, according to MNDF. 3 Indian Coast Guard ships, ICG Dornier, ICGS Atulya, and ICGS Vajra, have arrived to take part in the exercise. The Sri Lankan Coast Guard vessel SLNS Suranimila has also arrived. Meanwhile, Indian Coast Guard Director General Paramesh Sivamani arrived in the Maldives for the trilateral joint exercise Dosti 17. Upon his arrival at Velana International Airport, he was received by Mohammad Salim, Brigadier General and Commander of the MNDF Coast Guard. Sri Lanka Coast Guard Director General Rohan Joseph has also arrived in the Maldives for Dosti 17. He was similarly received at Velana International Airport by Brigadier General Mohammad Salim. Officials from the Indian and Sri Lankan Coast Guards have begun arriving in the Maldives to participate in the exercise. This year's exercise Dosti will include search and rescue drills, maritime pollution response exercises, and maritime security-related drills. While the exercise focuses on humanitarian operations, the MNDF has advised the public and those traveling in the exercise areas to exercise caution during the drill period. The MNDF said the exercise will further strengthen relations between the participating countries, noting that ensuring regional maritime security and safety cannot be achieved by any single country alone. India, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives will participate directly in the exercise, while other countries will observe.
Maldives Transport and Contracting Company MTCC states a sheet piling on an area of 85 meters of Mal North Side Road has been completed. MTCC said reclamation works are currently ongoing, while water and sewage upgrading works are scheduled to be completed by next week. MTCC said additional works are also underway, including the construction of a pavement along building sites, the installation of drainage wells, and the construction of cable junctions. These works are also expected to be completed by next week. The local market road project includes the paving of a 250-meter stretch from the local market area to the North Harbour. As part of the project, the canal will be extended to 6 meters and the road will be widened. Once completed, the roads in the market area will be reconfigured to improve traffic flow and pedestrian safety. The project is also expected to introduce a modern road infrastructure and provide a long-term solution to flooding issues in the area. Overall, the project covers a total length of 1,088 meters, extending from the Hemveru ferry terminal to the North Harbour. The first phase, covering 140 meters, has already been completed. The government said the project is expected to ease congestion in the commercial port area and improve the transportation of goods. The national airline Maldivian says its seasonal international flights to Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok were well received during the recent holiday period.
Maldivian increases both domestic and international flight frequencies each year during school holidays, with the aim of providing greater travel opportunities for the public both within the Maldives and abroad. In line with this policy, the airline expanded services to several destinations during the holiday season. The airline said its seasonal flights to Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok operated at high capacity, with most flights running full. Introduced to cater to peak holiday holiday demand, the services attracted strong interest from Maldivian travelers throughout the season. According to Maldivian, more than 2,120 passengers traveled via Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok routes during the period. The airline said this reflects strong demand for regional destinations for short holidays, business travels, and year-end trips during school holidays. The airline said the strong performance of the Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok routes highlights the growing popularity of regional destinations among local travelers and reflects Maldivian's strategy of scheduling flights based on passenger demand during peak travel periods. Meanwhile, Maldivian has also increased flight frequencies to Trivandrum and Cochin in response to demand on other international routes. Some services were operated using larger aircraft, increasing seat capacity and improving passenger service. Additional flights were also operated to Jeddah to facilitate Umrah travel during the holiday season. Maldivian said more than 500 additional domestic flights were operated from mid-December to January to accommodate increased passenger numbers during the holidays, with further flights planned in the coming weeks. The airline also said seaplane operations were expanded to transport tourists to resorts during the busiest period of the year. Looking ahead, Maldivian said it will continue to plan flight schedules based on market demand and introduce special seasonal services. The airline said it also aims to further strengthen its international, domestic, and seaplane operations to meet future transport needs.
The regulator of Africa's top gold producer tells Reuters Ghana will scrap long-term mining investment stability agreements and double royalties under sweeping reforms as bullion prices surge.
The moves are part of a sweeping overhaul intended to balance investor confidence with a push to capture more revenue, Isaac Tando, CEO of the Ghana Minerals Commission, said in an interview in Accra. Ghana Stability and Development Pacts traditionally lock in royalty and tax terms for 5 to 15 years in exchange for large investments, typically $300 to $500 million for mine builds and expansions. Beneficiary miners must extend mine life by at least 3 years and grow output beyond 10%, among others, to qualify for renewal. Newmont, AngloGold Ashanti, and Goldfields are currently under stability agreements. They did not immediately respond to requests for comments. Tando said the changes, to be codified in law, means Newmont's Stability Pact, which expired in December, will not be renewed, and similar arrangements held by AngloGold Ashanti and Goldfields will be phased out when they lapse in 2027. The new law, expected to be presented to Parliament by March, also proposes royalties starting at 9% and rising to 12% if gold prices hit $4,500 per ounce and above, roughly double the current 3 to 5% range, alongside tougher local content rules on in-country procurement and support for indigenous businesses. Development agreements will be scrapped completely as they've been abused, he said, often raising royalties and local content demands, changes that have periodically sparked clashes with global miners over costs and contract certainty. Ghana pioneered stability agreements in the early 2000s, successfully unlocking billions in foreign investment that built a mining industry strong enough to dethrone South Africa as Africa's top gold producer.
The White House announces names of the so-called Board of Peace that will, under President Donald Trump's plan, supervise the temporary governance of Gaza.
The names include U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, President Donald Trump's Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. Trump is the chair of the board, according to a plan his White House unveiled in October. The board will also include private equity executive and billionaire Mark Rowan, World Bank President Ajay Banga, Robert Gabriel, a Trump advisor, the White House said, adding that Nikolay Mladenov, a former UN Middle East envoy, will be the High Representative for Gaza. Army Major General Jasper Jeffers, a U.S. Special Operations Commander, was appointed commander of the International Stabilization Force, the White House said. A UN Security Council resolution adopted in mid-November authorized the board and countries working with it to establish that force in Gaza. The White House also named an 11-member, quote, Gaza Executive Board, unquote, that will include Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Sigrid Kaag, the United Arab Emirates Minister for International Cooperation, Rimal Hashimi, and Israeli Cypriot billionaire Yakir Gabay, along with some members of the Executive Board. The White House said this additional board will support Mladenov's office and the Palestinian technocratic body, whose details were announced this week.
Australian Open defending champion Jannik Sinner and the home nation's biggest hope Alex de Minaur train in Melbourne ahead of the competition.
Sinner is seeking his 5th Grand Slam title and is the bookmakers' favorite to win a 3rd successive Australian Open crown as another title showdown looms the world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz. The Sin Caras duopoly swept all 4 Grand Slam titles in 2025, and their dominance is expected to continue at Melbourne Park, where few in the men's draw appear equipped to challenge, let alone beat them. A Sinner victory would make the 24-year-old Italian the first to lift the Australian Open trophy 3 years running since Novak Djokovic in 2019 to 21. Australia's Alex de Minaur knows there is no hiding at the Australian Open, especially as the country's biggest hope of ending a 50-year drought for a men's champion. De Minaur made his first Australian Open quarter-final last year, only to be crushed in straight sets by Sinner. Generations of home fans have waited in vain for a local winner of the men's event since Mark Edmondson's 1976 triumph, and with Nick Kyrgios in no condition to play singles at the tournament, de Minaur is very much Australia's main man.
Toy giant Mattel launches its first autistic Barbie doll, created with insights from the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network.
The doll is meant to reflect how neurodivergent people experience the world with intentional design details such as a side-eye gaze and accessories like a fidget spinner, noise-canceling headphones, and a communication tablet. The Barbie also features specific articulation to enable stimming or self-stimulation behavior and hand flipping. Author and content creator Ellie Middleton was among the first people to meet the new doll. After being diagnosed with both autism and ADHD at the age of 24, Middleton founded the Unmasked Community for Neurodivergent People. Calling her first interaction with the doll very emotional, she hopes the doll will help children understand autism better. The new doll follows the footsteps of many other Barbies that were launched to increase inclusiveness among children's toys like Blind Barbie, Barbie with Down syndrome, and Barbie with type 1 diabetes.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.